Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to MTG Traders. My name is Taryn. This is day 2 of Amonkhet preview season. Amonkhet spoiler season is blasting by and it's only day 2. If you like these videos, give them a like and subscribe to MTG Traders for more content in the future. Make sure to tick that bell just below to make sure that you get your notification on when Amonkhet spoilers are released. So let's get right into it. First up, we've got the Monument Cycle. The monuments are actually for each god. This also tells us the name of each god, so bear with me as I pronounce them. Rona's Monument, Hazoret's Monument, Bontu's Monument, Okhetra's Monument, and Kefnet's Monument are all 3 colorless legendary artifacts that reduce the amount of mana needed to cast each color's spell by 1 colorless mana. Rona's has the upside of pumping your creatures +2/+2 and giving them trample when you cast a creature spell. Certainly an ability worthy of green. Hazoret's gives you the loot ability whenever you cast a creature spell, making discard more active, and this means that we'll likely see more cards in this set like Flameblade Adept that get bigger based on cards discarded. And Bontu, oh Bontu, you're my favorite. Whenever you cast a creature spell, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. So far, this card sticks out to me the most, as the black-white taxes strategy in Standard has been begging for a card as simple as this. This may actually push the deck from fringe play to more frequent F&M play. Moving on, Okhetra's Monument gives you 1/1 white warriors. Wait, not cats? Creature tokens with vigilance. Again, vigilance is very good here. Kefnet's Monument, which in my opinion is probably the worst, makes it so target creature and opponent controls doesn't untap during its next untap step. It doesn't even tap the creature. While this is pretty effective against Exert cards in Limited, I can't really see anywhere else this being useful. All the other monuments have potential Standard play, but Kefnet seems strictly limited. It's strange. Regardless, all of the art here is great, and now we know all the gods' names. Bontu being a black crocodile, that's nice. Okay, next up, let's talk new Aftermath cards. Onward to Victory is this one, so let's break it down. Onward is 2 colorless mana and 1 red mana for an instant. Target creature gets +X/+0 until end of turn, where X is that creature's power. Okay, so Pummeler on an instant card, gotcha. Then when this card is in the graveyard, you can cast its Aftermath for victory. Target creature gains double strike until end of turn. Okay, so together, this card alone is a great limited effect, and something you'll definitely see only in Limited, as the Aftermath cost is just too high. But the ability to double your creature's strength and then swing in for double strike on the same turn is just deadly. Too bad that double strike feature is only a sorcery speed though. In Limited, this is definitely good for the red-white aggro strategy. However, in Standard, I just don't see it being there. It's just so expensive. But okay, we've got another one, and this is a translation, so this is Prepared to Fight. So Prepared is 1 colorless and 1 white mana, and that is untapped target creature. It gains +2/+2 and lifelink until end of turn. Then, of course, when it's in the graveyard, it's 3 colorless and 1 green mana for a sorcery. Target creature you control fights target creature you don't control. Okay, I like this actually a lot more. For 6 mana, you pump him, give him some lifelink, and then you fight him out with a creature on board. This is definitely a limited combat bomb, but I'm not really sure about Standard. Again, the Aftermath is just not there yet for me. I think it's just like right there on the cusp of being great, but it just needs something else. It just needs something else to make it great. I'm guessing it's that if the Aftermath cards were instants, I'd be more happy with that. But that would probably be too powerful. Alright, moving on, let's talk some green creatures, and they actually look pretty good. Exemplar of Strength is a 1 colorless, 1 green for a green Human Warrior 4/4 with the ability of when Exemplar of Strength enters the battlefield, put 3 -1/-1 counters on target creature you control. Whenever Exemplar of Strength attacks, remove a -1/-1 counter from it. You gain 1 life. It's interesting, I like that a lot. What's great is you can actually put the -1/-1 counters on a different creature instead of Exemplar of Strength. However, then the secondary ability is basically moot. I'm guessing most players will just opt to bolt one of their creatures for 4/4 for 2. That's probably the better play here. However, in the Limited environment, there's probably a lot of cards that interact with this that make it really great. I'm not so sure about Standard though. We'll have to see. I've kind of got some ideas about a green-black Constrictor deck going on in my mind with Nest of Scarabs from yesterday, but I'm not sure about the viability of that yet. We just need to see more options in the format. But here's another green creature, and it's pretty similar. Chandler Initiate is 1 colorless and 1 green mana for a human druid 3/4 that when it enters the battlefield, put 3 -1/-1 counters on target creature you control. Tap and remove 1 -1/-1 counter from Chandler Initiate. Add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. Okay, so this is a really good synergy between the 2 cards we just shown. Whenever a Chandler Initiate runs out of -1 counters, you can actually put the Exemplar of Strength onto the board, put the -1 counters on the Chandler again, and be able to get your mana back. I really like that interaction. It's very synergistic. And again, with Nest of Scarabs we just talked about yesterday, this kind of limited interaction is crazy. Chandler will definitely see some limited play. I definitely think you'll probably see it in a Standard format of some sort, although I'm not sure about now, but maybe in the future. But I definitely think there's a lot of potential in Chandler. Alright, let's move on to the blue cards. Essence Scatter is back as a reprint. Look at that art, it's nice. Again, the Limited environment is a very creature-based heavy strategy, so Essence Scatter is very good in that format. As far as Standard and everything else goes, no. There are just other cards that do much more. One of the primary things that this card doesn't hit is, of course, Saheeli on Saheeli combo. None of the Philidar Guardians when they come into play. And of course, your Mardu Vehicles deck. Your Heart of Kiran is not a creature when it comes into play. Things like that is what make X, Essence Scatter not as good. Moving on to a card that may actually see some standard play is Drake Haven. 2 colorless and 1 blue mana for an enchantment. Whenever you cycle or discard a card, you can pay 1 colorless mana. Put a 2/2 flying Drake token onto the battlefield. This card is literally insanity in Limited. If you can build like a really cool Is It Limited strategy in draft or during the pre-release or something like that, that would be hilarious. There's actually a lot of cards coming up now that says that Is It may have a Madness strategy coming too, and I think this card would definitely be like a 3 or 4 of in that kind of deck. As creating 2/2 flyers is no joke, especially when you're only paying for 1 mana. I really like this card a lot. Okay, moving on, we have one of the anti-Exarch cards in Limited, and that is Decision Paralysis. 3 colorless mana and 1 blue for an instant. Tap up to 2 target creatures. They don't untap during that player's next untap step. This would be great in a blue-white tempo shell in Limited. I think Exarch is going to be one of those abilities that a lot of people want to try out. And since you're having to pass a turn and they can't untap the first time, having them not be able to untap the second time is devastating. I think it's definitely going to be really good to kind of break up those crummy board states in Limited. However, in Standard, the 4 mana is just too expensive. I don't see it being played there. Moving on, we've got Scribe of the Mindful. It's 2 colorless and 1 blue for a 2/2 human cleric. Pay 1 colorless, tap, and sacrifice Scribe of the Mindful. You may return 1 instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. This card is actually pretty good. Most of the time, Blue's gonna have to rely on flashback or black cards to get things back from the graveyard. But this Limited card actually does work as far as attacking, being able to block, and then trade and get a card back from your graveyard. Will this see Standard play? I highly doubt that, as it is 3 mana for a 2/2 that only gets you back 1 card, but you never know. So do you want to talk some legendary creatures? Let's go. Timoth, Vizier of Nakataman is a 1 white, 1 blue, 2/2 human cleric. At the beginning of combat on each turn, target creature token gets +1/+1, and basically unblockable until end of turn. Timoth also has Embalm for 3 colorless mana, 1 white and 1 blue. And it actually comes back as a legendary token, which is really cool. For viability here, if you can build around this guy in draft and or Limited, he is amazing. We were just talking a moment ago about the blue-white tempo strategy, and he fits snugly into that. The more I look at him, the better he gets. And the more cards that come out in white and blue make me excited for an Azurius tempo-based strategy in Standard. Will this make that? I'm not sure. But let's move on to the black cards now. Splendid Agony is 2 colorless and 1 black for an instant. Distribute up to 2 -1/-1 counters on 1 to 2 target creatures. Alright, this is actually pretty good. You either shock a creature on their side, destroy some 1/1s, or put some -1/-1 counters on your creatures to give them buffs. Again, we have Exemplar of Strength and Chandler for that kind of example. This is great in Limited, and because of the nature of what it does, it may actually see some fringe Standard play. It's on the, it's riding that line. Here's another card, and it's actually going to have to be translated as well. Lay Bare the Heart, which I'm assuming is not the actual title of this card because it's translated. It's 1 colorless and 1 black mana for a sorcery. Target opponent reveals his or her hand. You choose a non-legendary, non-land card from it, and that player discards that card. I'm always a fan of hand hate, and I think a 2 mana hand hate card like this is pretty good. But I'm not sure it'll see any play outside of Limited just because of that non-legendary specificity. This is a card that's definitely letting people in Limited and Draft be able to play with their god cards in their hand and not feel like it's going to be taken out. And while I respect that decision, it's made the card worse overall. Is it still probably going to see some Standard play? Yes, probably. I think probably some sideboard strategies for sure. But we'll definitely need to have a wait and see approach with this card. But moving on, we've got some sweet white cards. Tall Crop Elite is a 3 colorless and 1 white mana, 2/2 flying bird warrior. You may exert it as it attacks. When you do, creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. Wow, a recurring Anthem effect. That is amazing. Especially on a flyer that'll probably get in more times than not. So for Draft and Limited, great card. Probably not going to see any Standard play, sadly, but I would be very happy to pick this out of a draft. Do not undervalue those Anthem effects. But moving on to another white card, we've got Cast Out. 3 colorless mana and 1 white mana for an enchantment. When Cast Out enters the battlefield, exile target non-land permanent until Cast Out leaves the battlefield. This card is so good it actually might see some Standard play. The reason for that is because it has Planeswalker hate based on the non-land permanent specificity. It also has cycling for 1 white mana. So Unlimited, if you draw this early on, you can definitely cycle it really quickly for a new card. And I think again, when it sees Standard play, that cycling ability may come into play too. It's going to be a high draft pick and a Limited All-Star. And I do strongly feel that it may see Standard play. Moving on to another white card, we have Sacred Cat, a 1 white mana, 1/1 cat. It has lifelink and embalm for 1 white mana. Look at that guy, he's adorable. I tried finding the token for this guy, but I couldn't find it. I'm assuming in my head it's just a bandaged up cat, so it's just hilarious. But yeah, Limited, it does stuff, it blocks things, it comes back and blocks more stuff. Even with lifelink being on this, I'm not sure it's that great. Unless there's a card that has something to do with cats. which could be true because this is Egypt, aka Amonkhet. And finally, this last white card is one I actually missed from yesterday. Amonkhet's name is a 1 colorless, 1 white mana for an instant. Zombies you control get +2/+1 until end of turn. Other creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. Very nice white-black zombie strategy, I'm assuming in limited or draft. And this may actually see like a tribal kind of thing going on in standard as well. But besides that, I don't see this being put anywhere else. But that +1/+1 anthem effect in draft may actually be pretty good. So the singular red card today is actually Consuming Fervor. It is a 1 red mana enchantment aura. Enchant creature. Enchanted creature has +3/+3. And at the beginning of your upkeep, put it -1/-1 counter on enchanted creature. Okay, so this card is actually very interesting, and I see it being in limited and probably in a really fast mono red standard strategy. For 1 mana, getting +3/+3 is no joke. And while the tick down ability of the -1/-1 counter is going on the creature as your turns go on, you still get power buffs and it doesn't go away until 3 turns later. And I think that's what makes this card so flexible. Of course, if you don't tend to it quickly, it's going to kill your creature. But that's probably a trade-off you're willing to make since it's getting such a power boost so early in the game. I just see putting this on a Flameblade Adept for Menace, 3/3, so it's a 4/4 swinging in for 4 on turn 2. Seems pretty good, guys. And last but oh so not least, we've got our blue god today. Kefnet the Careful is a 2 colorless and 1 blue mana for a 5/5 indestructible flying legendary creature god. Kefnet can't attack or block unless you have 7 or more cards in your hand. Pay 3 colorless mana and 1 blue mana, draw a card. You may return a target land card from your battlefield to your hand. That's a May ability, by the way. Okay, Fevered Visions decks just got so much better. This fits like perfectly into like an Izzet control shell. I'm assuming that's kind of what they're going for here. However, the secondary ability I feel is almost just for limited. I understand having 4 mana and being able to draw a card and bounce a land to get 2 cards in your hand for him to be able to attack is good, but in standard you should probably have 4 mana to be able to do something else that is just as viable, like a Glimmer of Genius. But I think in standard, he's actually going to be pretty good. In limited, I'm not really sure because in limited, you're actually curving out pretty quickly. So unless you just pull all of the control type strategy cards in your limited pool, you're really not going to be able to play Kefnet to his potential if you pull him. However, if you do get him out, having a 5/5 flying indestructible is actually pretty ridiculous. I think the actual 3 mana cost as well is actually really good too. But that is it for the cards today. What did you guys think? Do you like the blue god or do you prefer Hazaret from yesterday? I'm really curious to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment below and I'll be sure to interact with you. But that is it for today, folks. Please come back tomorrow for some more Amonkhet preview season stuff. And we've actually got a preview card to show tomorrow. Can't wait to show you guys. We'll see you then.